This is VOA News. I'm Joe Ramsey. Emergency services were still searching the sea and the coastline in Cutro, Italy amid stormy weather on Sunday following a deadly migrant shipwreck. The death toll has risen to 59, including 12 children, an official said on Sunday. The number of dead is set to rise further, she added. She said survivors had said some 140 to 150 people were on board, suggesting some migrants were still missing. The vessel carrying people from Afghanistan, Iran, and several other countries sank in rough sea conditions near the region that forms the tip of Italy's boot. Some U.S. lawmakers are pushing President Joe Biden's administration to supply Ukraine with fighter jets. AP correspondent Jackie Quinn reports.
Not everyone in Congress supports more military aid for Ukraine, but Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan says they need F-16 fighter jets, and the Biden administration should do it now.
They have slow-rolled critical military weapons systems.
He spoke on NBC's Meet the Press. So did White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, defending the stance on the fighter jets.
This phase is about ground combat and being able to have the tools in the hands of the Ukrainians.
I'm Jackie Quinn.
Scores of Israeli settlers have gone on a violent rampage in the northern West Bank, setting cars and homes on fire after 2 settlers were killed by a Palestinian gunman. Palestinian officials say 1 man has been killed and 4 others badly wounded. The deadly shooting, followed by the late-night rampage, is raising questions about a Jordanian declaration it had received assurances from Israel and the Palestinians to calm a year-long wave of violence. This is VOA News. The United States declared Sunday that the Crimean Peninsula remains a part of Ukraine, but said the more immediate concern is for Kyiv's forces to retake lands that Moscow has seized in its year-long war. Steve Karish reports.
The comments came on the 9th anniversary of Russia illegally annexing the peninsula. The United States does not and never will recognize Russia's purported annexation of the peninsula. Crimea is Ukraine, the State Department said in a written statement on Sunday. At the same time, Jake Sullivan, President Joe Biden's national security advisor, told NBC's Meet the Press that ultimately it is up to Ukraine to decide what constitutes victory or an acceptable diplomatic outcome, even though no peace negotiations are currently taking place. Steve Karish, VOA News, Washington.
CIA Director William Burns says Russian President Vladimir Putin is being too confident in his military's ability to grind Ukraine into submission. Burns tells CBS's Face the Nation Putin was underestimating U.S. resolve to support Ukraine. Burns says it's been his experience that the Russian leader's view is that Americans have, quote, attention deficit disorder and will move on to some other issue eventually. Meanwhile, some lawmakers from the Republican Party are criticizing U.S. President Joe Biden's administration for not sending F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine, and there are concerns that China might help arm Russia. Observer groups in Nigeria on Sunday cited problems in the voting process they had said led to disenfranchisement of some voters in the nation's presidential and parliamentary elections. In Abuja, some voters said they were barred from voting and described chaos and pandemonium at polling stations on Saturday.
After 3 p.m. in the afternoon, nothing happened, only for us to realize that some INEC ad hoc staffs were inside some printing. As a result, chaos broke out, and then people started fighting.
At a news conference in the capital, Abuja, on Sunday, the country's largest election monitoring body said they, quote, know that there are locations where elections did not go on yesterday. 30 years after terrorism first struck New York City's World Trade Center, victims, relatives, and survivors are remembering the deadly February 26, 1993 bombing that foreshadowed 9/11. Anniversary observances took place Sunday at the Trade Center and at a nearby church, including sound of FDNY pipes and drums at a ceremony to mark the 1993 World Trade Center bombing anniversary, courtesy 9/11 Memorial and Museum. Find more on our website, voanews.com.